Hello, we are back for another talk as part of Mental Health Awareness Month. And today we're going to be talking about practicing healthy social media practices. And we're going to be joined by Amanda Rodriguez. So, just going to wait for her to join. And then we're going to get talking. Okay. Are going live. Hello. Oh, I can't hear you.
Oh no.
Oh no, I can hear you now.
That.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. It's Friday, so
Yeah.
nearly the weekend.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah, I mean the weather in London has not been great, but apparently it's going to get better on the weekend with some sunshine. So
Hallelujah. Yeah, it's really hot here, so I wouldn't mind trading weather for a bit.
I mean it's like they say the grass is always greener on the other side, right? I'm like that when it's winter. I always want it to be summer, and then when it's summer, I'm like, oh, I really want it to be. I want to wear winter clothes. So,
I agree.
yeah, but me too. Well, I'm really happy that we are joining. You know, you've joined us for this talk today as part of Mental Health Awareness Month. Yeah, so today we're going to be talking about practicing healthy social media habits and what that means. So, yeah, before we go into that, I thought, did you want to give yourself a little mini intro?
Yeah, sure. So my name's Amanda. I'm currently based in Los Angeles, California. I'm a model, I'm a mother, and I'm a wife. I'm really passionate about speaking on mental health and mental illness, anxiety and depression. And I'm happy to be here today speaking with you. I love Shushbox. I love your advocacy and, everything that you stand for. So thanks for having me on here.
Thank you. That means a lot. Yeah, no, I'm super happy we've connected, and I've been following you as well for a while. So I've seen obviously you do the advocacy work as well. So thank you. Straight back at you.
I mean, I try nothing like what you do, but I mean, it's hard enough to put yourself out there on social media. So, I try to inch myself forward, and be more transparent, because I think that's what social media really needs, is more transparency, and honesty.
Absolutely. And I think, just getting into it really with social media, I think having a healthy relationship with, like you say, yeah, putting the content out there, but also what you're following, right? So the accounts that you're following.
Yes, exactly. I think it's really easy to get taken by all the content that we see on social media. You kind of like fall into that rabbit hole and you start comparing yourself to other people. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've done that myself plenty of times. And you have to remind yourself that on social media, especially Instagram, everyone's putting their best foot forward. Like everything that they post is so filtered and specifically chosen for that specific moment to make them seem better than what they really are. Like we're all human beings. We all suffer from time to time with what we're going through, but we're not always gonna whip out the camera and document the moment, So I think it's just really important to be mindful, and I don't have it all together by any means. I'm still figuring a lot out. Like I'm not, a perfect person. And I to this day still find myself comparing myself to, other women, other models. It's so easy as human beings to do that. Mm-hmm. I just try to be mindful and tell myself, what you see is not always reality. you know, we all go through things behind closed doors that you might not see on our social media account. And I just try to remind myself that constantly. And another thing that we were talking about before was unfollowing certain accounts that might trigger you in any way. And it's not anything personal or against that, you know, that person or that account. It is just trying to be more aware of your own health. You know, what we see on social media every day really impacts us and our attitude and our mood more than we consciously. So yeah, from time to time, I find myself just like unfollowing certain accounts, even if it's just temporary and not, you know, permanent. But yeah, I think it's just really important to be mindful of the content that we consume every single day. Sorry, I went on a tangent.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I was like loving all of the points you were making, and I think you're so right. It is about, because a lot, especially with the world and how obviously everything's been in the last year, you know, a lot of people have been at home more, you know, on their phones more. Sometimes, I don't know if you have that on your phone, you know, the digital, when it tells you the screen time.
Oh,
yes, sometimes, you know, when that comes through, sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, like, what have I been looking at that whole time?
no.
So yeah, I think just you're right. It's looking at it through a lens of not everything you see is even the truth. It's not even the truth. So I think when you try to look at it that way, it's you know, it's only the picture perfect moments sometimes that we're seeing.
Yes, definitely. And personally, I suffer with my mental health. I suffer with a few things, mainly anxiety and depression. And oftentimes, you know, people would never know that at first glance, because if you look at my Instagram, you might hone in on those moments that seem happy, or on photo shoots, or, you know, this or that. And you might just look at me and think like, oh, well, she has a nice life, or what does she have to suffer from? And I think that's, a lot of people can relate to that to some extent, because again, we all kind of filter through the moments that we want everyone else to see. You know, I feel pretty in this picture, or I look really happy in this moment. So, you know, this is a great moment for the world to judge me based on. But in reality, like, I just want to remind people that it doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter what followers you have. There's a lot of people out there that suffer or are survivors. Yeah, remember that.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a good reminder. And, you know, just with before setting up Shushbox, I think we were talking about this last time, but I used to have a personal account. You know, I didn't have a lot of followers, but it was just the people that I was actually following, because I was at a stage, I think, in my healing journey where I was, you know, starting to look at therapy and just really looking at that, like my mental health in general. And I was had a really bad relationship with social media, because I felt like everything that I was, you know, friends or people that I was following, it was almost like triggering me, even if they were, you know, just being themselves and that's what they want to put out there. But I just felt like I was watching all this stuff where people felt happy and I just didn't feel happy. And, you know, I was trying to post things that was putting out a different version of how I was actually feeling. And, you know, then I went through a phase of deactivating my account, reactivating my account, deactivating. And then in the end, I just deleted it, because I'd moved over to Shushbox by then, and I didn't use social media in the same way. So obviously I was using it now for everything that we're talking about now. So having more of these conversations, and I had that opportunity as well to almost look at the people that I was following and filter through that. And I think there's positives as well as negatives to social media. And I think, you know, it's always a good thing to go through your list of who you're following regularly. And if there are people triggering you, like you were saying, you know, we feel different at different times, and it's nothing personal to those people. Like with some of my old connections. I'm like, it's nothing even personal to them. It's just, I
Right.
feel like I've changed. And the type of things that I want to see on social media now and the content that I want to interact with is based around like mental health and well-being and wellness. So I want to use it as more of a tool to lift up my spirit rather than comparing myself to people's lifestyles, I guess.
Yeah, I love that. I love everything that you said, and I've done that myself. Like I've gone back and forth, and I thought like, should I just take a break from social media altogether? But with your personal account, do you find yourself more happy now with social media now that you've created this space for yourself, I guess?
Absolutely, yeah. I think it was difficult to start with because I was so used to I literally deleted every single account, which is extreme. This sounds extreme to people because everybody has social media, right? So I deleted Facebook, I deleted Instagram, I deleted Twitter. I didn't really use Twitter. I was just like, I was
Right.
on a real healing journey and I was going inwards, and all of it was just too much for me to digest of, living in this um, world. And also it wasn't just the people, it was the content that I was putting out there to show other people. I didn't feel like I was myself. I
Right.
didn't feel authentic. But that's a longer story, more connected to some of my trauma and the healing journey. I just always used to feel a conflict of not really knowing who I was. So since having to since getting rid of the social media in that way and finding social media in this way, and just really just feeling things out as I've been healing and having these open conversations and connecting with new accounts, it's been super positive. But yeah, there were just it was just too much for me before, I think, and I didn't enjoy it. I just had to get rid of it.
Well, I applaud you. I think you did the right thing, and I more people just take that into mind. And try to do that themselves, cleanse if you have to. You don't always have to deactivate, but you
Yeah.
can create your feed to be like a safe space almost,
Yeah.
Scrolling. I mean, recently I follow like yourself, like, so many accounts that, first thing in the morning, I'm on my phone with my cup of coffee. And when
Yeah.
you're scrolling, see things um, that are in support of survivors, or it's talking about mental health, something that you relate to on a deep
Yeah.
level up, it just is a great way to start your day
Yeah.
versus if it's something that might make you feel inferior or self-conscious, or it might trigger you about an experience in your life. Subconsciously, that's just like starting your day off on a wrong foot. So
Yeah. I think that's right. And it's even, I mean, what I did, I think, was extreme, but there's other ways around it. Obviously, you can still stay connected to people, but mute them, mute the stories, mute the posts or whatever, because you're so right. A lot of people, I think, go on their phones in the morning, and that can almost set the tone for your day, whatever you're looking at. So, yeah, there's some of the things that I did. I do feel like it was extreme, but there's other ways of doing it.
works for you, which is important because everyone's different. And if that helps you, then that's all that matters.
Yeah. I mean, do you ever set kind of like time limits on how much you're on your phone or online or
I would like to be better at that. I think that it's something that I need to be better at, because sometimes I myself kind of get taken, down that rabbit hole of social media. I'll find myself like looking at something, and then like an hour will go by, and I'm like, okay, well, I haven't really done much. I'm just browsing,
mm-hmm.
So I would like to set aside more time. For me, I usually have my phone on me at all times, which probably is not the best thing. But recently I'm trying to, like, if I go for a walk with my daughter,
Mm-hmm.
I'm with them, I'm safe, so I'm going to leave my phone at home. I don't need it always to be, checking it all the time, which sometimes I find myself doing that. Like, I'm going to admit, sometimes, it's just always there when it's not really
addictive, isn't it? It's like a habit. You're like, I was like, what am I even checking? No one's even texting
right.
me. What am I doing?
What's the so yeah, yesterday I went to the supermarket and I didn't need it. I just like, I'm going to leave it at home, out of sight, out of mind, take a break. You know, small things like that. It might not seem, I mean, our grandparents are probably laughing at that thought, like, oh, they can't even be away from their phones for like, you know, X amount of time. But, you know, for our generation, especially with some work that we do, it is difficult. It is more addictive, I guess you could say.
But if you're you, this is it. It's that fine line because there's positives to social media. You know, reaching new audiences for work and business, and you know, having these conversations. There is pros to it, and the community that the community that you can create. But yeah, trying to find different ways to not let it take over your day or like take over, you know, everything. And I think that's a good one. I do that actually when I go for walks. I don't take my phone out anymore.
It's just a good transition, I guess, to try to you know, focus on outside in the moment. That's I need to try to do that more, is just focus on being in the moment, not always in my emails and stuff, you know. But I do like what you said. There is a lot of pros to social media, regardless of what we're talking about now. Like, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. Social media is actually how I met my husband.
Oh,
which, yeah.
that's nice.
And my daughter now because of it. So thank you, social media, for that.
Yeah.
And
Cupid.
Also, I would say social media has helped me tremendously in my healing. I don't talk that much personally about my experience as a sexual assault survivor, but I would have to say it's helped me so much through accounts like yours. It does really create a virtual community that I don't have in real life, you know, like in the physical, you know, my everyday physical life. And sometimes survivors, they don't feel comfortable enough to speak out in person or join groups in person yet. So doing it online, I think, is a great way. It's a great, you know, stepping stone to getting to that place of I'm ready, you know, to maybe see a therapist or join a survivors group in real life. Nowadays, so many things are virtual and online. And so, yeah, I think there's a lot of ways that social media and the internet in general is positive. Not all of it.
You're so right. And thank you as well for obviously sharing and for your words about the platform. I mean, it started as part of my healing. It was, you know, I wanted to just have a community. I just wanted to express myself and, you know, find content that was going to help me. And I'm just really happy that it's, you know, I've managed to connect with so many amazing people like yourself, and we're in it together. You know, it is that kind of hub that even if we're on different sides of the world, you know, it's having some, knowing that you're not the only one going through those experiences. So that's kind of been the aim with the platform, and it really has just opened up the conversation with so many great people. So yeah, there's definitely pros to the social media. I think we just touched on it a little bit here, but something else we were going to go through was setting boundaries, I guess, but not just online, but also offline. So, you know, how some of these things that we're talking about now, obviously muting people in real life or not blocking people, but yeah, what things could we, have you had experience with, I guess, in practicing boundaries, but more in the offline world?
Right. So for me recently, I've been struggling, I guess, with being more social in my day-to-day life. I think it has to do with COVID and the lockdown, and also, you know, my own experience that I went through. It really altered my feeling of safety and being around other people, or even just like leaving my home. I feel like I've made that like my little safe place. So I struggle with being more social, you know, outside of my home. Mm-hmm. And for me, I found that I need to set boundaries and not push myself to the point of mental exhaustion, or, you know, having like a horrible panic attack or like a mental break. Like I can feel almost the difference of when I need to push myself a little bit versus, okay, I'm going to break. I need to just message this person and tell them, you know, today isn't the best day. Like, I'm not feeling well. And not feel guilty about it either. Because I think it's important to know when, you know, you need to rest, and that's okay. And nowadays, it's like if you're not go doing something, it's seemed as like a failure, and that's not true. Especially when it comes to healing, it's okay to not be okay. You know, it's okay to feel nervous. It's okay to feel like maybe, you know, going to lunch with your friend isn't the best, you know, or whatever it might be. It's okay to say, I'm just going to stay home. You know, I'm just going to sit on the couch, be with my family, and just take time for myself. So yeah, for me personally, that's what I've been doing, I guess, is I try to push myself for the most part. I do, you know, try to put myself out there. But if there's a situation that I feel like, okay, this is a bit overwhelming for me, I've had a bad day, you know, like I've had a difficult day and I don't think I can make this. I'm just open about it, you know, and I'm like, look, I can't right now. I would love to do it another time. I would love to reschedule.
Yeah. That's
yeah.
a good way of looking at it. Just, you know, honoring your emotions and feelings and not putting too much pressure on. I mean, we're getting some comments here. Somebody earlier, Cash Money 87 said, I feel the same regarding the social isolation issues. I can totally relate. And I think a lot of people are going to be feeling this way. Yeah, I feel this way too, actually. We're coming out of lockdown. Actually, yesterday, for the first time in 10 months, I met up with a friend and went to a restaurant, which I had like anxiety a little bit about going, but you know, when I got there, it was good. And I think a lot of people who have been obviously, you know, staying at home, not seeing people, and things that seem to be opening up a little bit, I think that feeling is going to be felt by a lot of people. So yeah, just not putting too much pressure on yourself to say yes to everything as well. So, you know, having a calendar that's full of dates, as much as you want to go out, it can be quite daunting. It can be a bit overwhelming, thinking, gosh, there's so many people that now we need to catch up with.
Exactly. I love the idea of, you know, you can't overwhelm yourself with your calendar and everything coming up, your schedule. People are going to be excited to go back to the way things were before, but yeah, not to overwhelm yourself. And it's okay to say no. Saying no doesn't mean, you know, that you're being rude or you're trying to be hurtful to the other person. I think also in our society, it teaches us, especially as women, to say yes. I've, you know, experienced that myself. There's a pressure to always please people, not let them down, not disappoint them, but just remind yourself that it's okay to sometimes say no, or not right now, you know.
Yeah. And something else that is not okay, which is new to me since the last 6 months, is not replying straight away when somebody texts you. Because I used to have the habit, as soon as I get a text, I'm like, right, I've got to reply, it doesn't matter what I'm doing, I didn't even think about it. And it was almost, you know, replying, it was just too much. And then now I've started to let texts come through, and if I'm in the middle of something, you know, I can leave it. Sometimes I leave it a few days, sometimes I leave it a few weeks. You know, it doesn't matter anymore. And it's not to be rude, but it's, again, to give yourself that space that you need. And sometimes you don't feel like replying. Maybe I'm not in a mood to reply. Maybe I'm having one of those days where I just, you know, I don't feel sociable, I've got nothing to say. So what's the point in me replying to something when it's not genuine? I'd rather reply when I've got time and, you know, the energy to hold that space with the other person who's texting me. So that's another thing that I've recently learned, which is you don't have to reply straight away.
Yeah, it's not like an instant messenger. It's you know, you could take your time with it. That's what I've learned. And I'm really bad. I'm getting better. I'm really bad at doing that, at responding right away. But recently I've learned to not be so hard on myself, you know, and not feel guilty about it. And feel like, oh, you know, before I used to feel very guilty about not responding within seconds. And like you said, there's a reason for it. It's not that you're being rude. You just want to be able to hold space for that person fully and appropriately, you know.
And I think something that I learned as well with all this research on this channel and, you know, Googling about all these new things, people pleasing can also be like a trauma response. And I feel for me, I was a massive people pleaser before, and you know, everybody else's needs came before mine because I wanted to help people, and I was a giver, and you know, give to the point that there was nothing left for me. So I'd come home in the evening or go to bed at night and just feel empty. So, you know, these are all things that I've slowly over the last year or so been implementing. They've not just all come overnight either. They're, you know, practices that I've learned along the way. But yeah, with the texting back, that was a big one for me, because I would have always replied straight away. I would have always been there. I would have always been going to my friends' events or birthdays, or you know, you should go to birthdays, but like anything that was happening, I would always be there. But I've stopped doing that for now.
Yeah, and it's good to put yourself first. Like, you know what's best for you better than anyone. And like you said, you would come home feeling depleted, empty. At the end of the day, you wake up with yourself, you go to sleep with yourself, and you want to be the best you, and you can't be that if you are constantly giving. Not to say that being giving is a bad thing, because it's a beautiful quality, and we should all take the time to help one another. But especially with healing, which I can relate to, that is the time when we learn to put ourselves first. And that's what I'm learning, like mentally, you know, spiritually, in every way, to focus on what our needs are and listen to that.
Yeah.
Which is, I guess, another thing that I'm still learning in therapy. It's a journey. It's not easy. Like you said, it doesn't happen overnight. It's a whole process.
It's a process, but it's good to notice these things, I guess, and then want to. Somebody put here, learning is. I've lost the quote. Learning is trauma advantage. So yeah, I'm going to take that as in learning is part of the healing. Basically, I think that's what they're. I don't know. But, I think learning about these things, and you know, giving yourself. Not being too hard on yourself when you are trying to implement these new things. You know, if you do go back to your old ways, it doesn't mean, you know, you've lost or you failed in any way. It takes time to learn these new boundaries and put in new practices. And something you said earlier, which, you know, you're so right, where you go to sleep with yourself and you wake up with yourself, is that what you said? So, you know, you've got to take into account how you're actually feeling. And I think this can take us on to the next thing we were going to talk about, which was like the realities of mental illness, and, you know, what does depression even look like? So for me, you know, I used to go out and have a big smile on my face and be there for everyone, as I was saying, and going to all these events and just being this social person, like a social butterfly. But at night, I would just feel this empty feeling that I just didn't really know who I was, and I just didn't really like what I was doing, and I felt the opposite. So, you know, it's one thing that you project out, but mental illness, it's not, you know, what you think of depression, it's not always what you think it's going to look like.
Exactly. It takes on many forms and many shapes. And I guess, you know, society, we're used to, you know, the person that doesn't bathe or wash their hair and doesn't leave their house, which definitely that is depression. But like you said, it's also someone who could be social, someone who is smiley, bubbly, outgoing. You never really know. That's the thing about mental illness, is it doesn't just affect one person. You know, it doesn't matter what your lifestyle is, or what your career is, or what place you're in your life. It could affect anyone, you know, from all walks of life. And for me, depression definitely looks like, I guess, what I talked about before is, you know, I've posted many photos from, you know, photo shoots that I've had. And on the outside, it might seem like, oh, well, what would she have to stress over? Or what anxiety does she have? Or what depression does she have? But you know, but not many people know me personally on a personal level. So for me, yeah, it's difficult, because I think people see the way that I look, and then they don't put together, you know, my life experiences, and that I actually am a person with feelings, and I'm not perfect by any means, and I don't have everything figured out. And so, yeah, I mean, from day to day, I guess my mental illness, it changes. I mean, sometimes I'm on set at a photo shoot, you would never guess. I'm laughing, I'm talking to people, and then the next week I'm just in my pajamas every day, all day. I'll even say it, like, my hygiene will go down, like I won't eat a lot, I won't even drink water, I won't go outside. It just depends on, I guess, you know, the phase of depression that we're in, because I think it comes kind of in like a cycle or a stage. So yeah, it differs for everyone, but I think it's important just to keep in mind that you can't always look at someone and then tell what they're going through. Not everyone, you know, some people don't feel comfortable with coming out and saying, look, I'm suffering, so they'll hide it, or that's just their way of
surviving. Yeah. And I mean, you know, on those days when you are feeling, you know, everybody gets those days as well when you feel low, and obviously everybody's version of low can be on a spectrum. It can be one thing for another person and something else for somebody else. But on those days when you're not feeling your best, do you have any kind of like self-care practices that you like to, you know, it's difficult because you can have these practices in the back of your mind, because I have them too on those days, but some days, you know, when you're just really feeling that way, like, I don't want to do any of these things that are going to make me feel better. It's like, I don't want to go outside for a walk, I don't want to drink water, I don't want to eat well, I don't want to get out my bed.
It's so hard to push ourselves. I mean, we know, okay, this is better for us, but when moment and you are feeling sick and you're not feeling like your best, it's difficult. For me, I like to take baths. I know that sounds so basic, but like bubble bath, my time, just for me, and like my husband will watch my daughter, and it's just my time just for like silence. And I like to watch like funny YouTube videos. I'm a fan of a few YouTubers out there that it just like takes my mind off of you know, whatever's bothering me or hurting me at the moment, and it just makes it more lighthearted, affects my mood a lot better. Also, my husband, he's very supportive. I'm blessed to have him. I know it is a blessing. Not everyone has someone right there that they live with that can, you know, push them on days where they're starting to fall back. And he's that person for me. When he sees that I'm upset, will be like, come on, let's leave the house. Let's go for a walk. We don't have to go far if you don't want to. Let's just go, you know, around the area. Just certain things like that does help. Or even scheduling something for yourself, whether it's virtual. I mean, I know that there's a lot of classes you can take online. For me, what's been helpful is I'm starting to take dance again.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's actually helped my mental health tremendously, more than I thought it would. I know before people would always say that, you know, working out, doing cardio and exercise helped their mood. And I was always that person that would like roll my eyes and say, no, like, I don't really like exercising. There's no way that can help when you're already so depressed. How are you going to get out of bed and go to the gym? But I guess it's just about like taking tiny, small steps toward that, you know. And for me, it was going on walks, and now I'm able to go to a dance class, which has been very helpful. So for everyone, it's different. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think you said some really good ideas there. And, you know, even though you were saying with the bath, it's basic, it's not like, well, it might sound basic, but that is my go-to. Like today I was feeling really anxious I'm in the middle actually of moving house, and they say that moving house is like one of the most stressful things. But I used to move house quite often, but I think because we've been in lockdown for nearly a year, for me now it's like, whoa, I'm moving house again. This is so what we're doing. So I've been trying to work and then move house, you know, pack things up. And there was just a moment today when I was like, right, I literally need to just switch everything off, shut the laptop, shut the phone. And I just went in the bath. You know, I just put on one candle. I have like the oils that I put in the bath. And then I listened to a meditation, actually, pretty much the same meditation on YouTube. It's called Teos Wind. And they're different chakra meditations. So today I did one which was the solar plexus, which is kind of like your center. So I was like visualizing just being really calm in the bath and just, yeah, it's just the bath for me now is kind of like my almost real like place of just unwinding. And you know, the meditation lasts 15 minutes, so it's just 15 minutes of just pure, like, you know, no one around me, I'm in the dark.
And mindful, it's just, you know, you're there, you're in the moment, you're trying to just focus on relaxation. So I agree, my bath is like my safe place. Like that's what it's become at this point.
Me too. It's like when I start to feel it now, I know I'm like, right, okay, just run the bath, just go in the bath. It's 15 minutes. If you don't have time, it doesn't need to be half an hour. It's not like you think of a bath, you know, if you've got the time to have a really long, nice soak, that's great. But now I'm like, okay, 15 minutes, that's all that I need. And yeah, going out for walks. I think it's really nice that you have got obviously a safe support network as well with your partner. You know, I think having relationships where you can talk about how you're really feeling is important. It's not something that I've experienced just yet, but with all my healing work, I think, you know, the next relationship that I will have, because I've changed a lot as a person, I would want it to be with somebody that I was able to be my real self with and not, you know, have to pretend, and have that support when needed. Something that with me before was I would never take help if it was offered. I was quite a closed off person and didn't really want to share much about myself, even in relationships. I wouldn't give away the true me, because I didn't really know who the true me was. But yeah, I think it's nice having a support network, even if it's not a partner, even friends, even your online, yeah, or your dance community. Like you say, you go for dance class. I love dancing, actually. For me, I do it quite often just to like shake out the
yeah, like when you get your body moving, it just takes off so much stress mentally.
Yeah, some good music and, you know, just like shake it off. That really helps for me. And meditation, I think, is just my go-to, really. So meditation in the bath is like the ultimate tick. And then yeah, walks outside and online with the right type of content. You know, what I like to do, you were saying you like to watch YouTube videos. I like to watch shows that I already know what's going to happen. So like this year, even though I've watched Friends so many times, I'll like just randomly put like an episode of Friends on, or Schitt's Creek or something.
Yeah, I'm doing the same. I don't know if you've seen Bates Motel, but I've watched the whole series, and I'm like rewatching it now. So like I kind of know what's gonna happen, but then some details that I've forgotten. But
yeah,
like watching shows that make you feel good and happy.
It's just lighthearted, and you know, you don't need to stress about what's going to happen. Almost, it's like, you know, they're gonna have a nice time. Nothing too dramatic's happening in this episode. So.
Right. Well, it is pretty. It's based on murder, so it's pretty dramatic. But I just love like true crime stuff, so this is like right up the category that I like. So
yeah,
I pretty much already know what's gonna happen, but it's just like rewatching it. I don't know.
It's comfort. There's comfort in that, though. I think when you know when you've watched it before. I think I actually read somewhere that is a lot of people that have gone through like trauma or something will often do that, because you know what the expected outcome is.
Right. That totally makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I think we've covered quite a lot of things there. I think the last thing we were going to touch on was, I guess, that journeying through therapy. So if there's anybody watching who, you know, I'm obviously going to post this as well after onto the Shushbox feed, and I'll obviously tag you and just share everything we've been talking about. But for anyone who checks in, who is thinking of considering therapy or they're in therapy, do you have any tips from your own experience that you would want to share?
Yeah, definitely. I really love this topic. For a long time, I didn't want to go to therapy. I'll be honest. Like I was one of those people who didn't really see the point in it. I thought that it was a waste of time, and um, more than anything, I was scared. I had a lot of fear with it more than I realized. It's hard. It's scary to be vulnerable about certain things that and face certain things that you're not ready to face. It's difficult sometimes to talk to a stranger about certain things that are difficult for you to even think about to yourself that's happened to you or that you've experienced. um, and so for the longest time I put that off. I thought, okay, maybe one day I will go and I'll stick to it and I'll try it, but I always just hesitated. And finally last year I decided to just take the jump and try it, because I was really suffering and really, really going through a bad time. Not because of COVID, but just because of personal things that happened in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, the first time, I'm not going to lie, um, nerve-wracking. I was having a lot of anxiety before my appointment, which I don't know is a thing. I'm not sure if people feel anxious for their therapy, but I sometimes get so nervous that I get sick. Even though, I mean, it might sound silly because the therapist is there to help you and they understand and they're not going to judge you. But for me, I guess it's just the anticipation of having to face what we're going to talk about or work through. But I will say, since I've been going and more regularly, the easier definitely it's become. The more time that or gaps that I leave in between my sessions, I've noticed then I will get again. But the more that I keep at it, it's become a lot easier to open up and talk about that I'm ready to talk about before. And it's a process. That's what I've realized is your therapist isn't there to wave a magic wand and in a few sessions you're healed, like you're good to go. Like that's not reality. It's a journey, and I can't put a time frame on it. I don't know, if I'll ever heal from certain things fully, but I know that I'm trying my best to manage what I'm going through, feeling, and just live my life as happy as I possibly can, despite. Sorry, my cat.
Oh, meow.
My cat Sophia.
What's your cat called?
Sophia.
Sophia. Oh,
Live stream embarrasses me. I've done therapy sessions on Zoom, which I guess is a thing now. And yeah, I will be in a deep session, and my therapist does meditation as well. And I will be just trying to relax and calm down in the session. And Sophia will just like jump on me and and try to attack me in the middle
He's
of
like, I want to get in on the
healing. But yeah, as I was saying, it's a process, and I'm trying to take it a step at a time, and I'm not trying to look too far down the road or have too many expectations, if that makes sense. I'm just trying to, I guess, work through the pieces of my life that are hurting and need attention. And it's been good. It's been good for me. I mean, yeah, there are times where it's difficult or it's painful, but what I've learned in therapy is it's better, I guess, to relive those moments and talk about them with a professional who knows how to guide the session. And if you have a panic attack, they know how to help you through that, So in that sense, I do feel safe with my therapist because we've built up this relationship together. where in the beginning I didn't feel that safe and ready, but then over time, you know, I feel more comfortable now to know that if I have a panic attack during a session, I'm going to be okay. Like, I'm not going to die. I'm going to get through it. So yeah, I mean, I recommend it to anyone really. It's not a quick fix, you know, it's going to take time like any life, but I think it's been good, you know, along with a few other things. I think it's been good for me.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think, you know, there's a lot of things that I could relate to actually with your therapy. When I think a lot of people must. It's very scary going to therapy for the first time. You know, it's not something you've done before, and if you're going to therapy, you're going because you know there's something inside of you that is not sitting well with you. So you're facing your fear head on. So, you know, the first time that I went to therapy, and you know, you're talking about that anxious feeling, I definitely had that as well. But you're totally right. It's about kind of almost pushing through that barrier and finding the right therapist as well. You know, it can be difficult, but building that trust and exploring those emotions in a safe space, I think is really positive. One of the things that I did when I started therapy 2 years ago was, you know, just having to envision seeing somebody on a chair, like the person that I wanted to say something to, I had to see them on a chair and then say what I wanted to say to them. And for weeks and weeks, I kept putting it off in the therapy sessions because it was so hard. But when I finally did get to that week where I did it, you know, the therapist was there to support me with it. And actually, when I actually went and spoke about all the things, it was almost like a release. So doing that under the guidance of therapy was super comforting, and yeah, it was like almost all those things just came out, and I felt safe to do that in that space. So yeah, I think everything you talked about with your therapy and not taking it, just taking it week by week, even, you know, just week by week and seeing how you get on. And it's not that it gets even easier. It might get more difficult. It's the saying of healing is not linear. You know, there might be weeks where you really go deeper, or a week where you feel exactly. So I think everything you said makes sense. And for anyone who's thinking about therapy, it can be, there's lots of different types of therapy as well. So, you know, the one that I had was psychotherapy, which was talk therapy. But there's a lot of different therapies out there. So it is worth talking about. Yeah, I mean, obviously there's a cost as well that comes with therapy, which is something which is, it can be costly to go to therapy, but I think there's a lot of options online that you can get reduced counselling sessions, or even on via Zoom. Sometimes they offer lower rate ones. So yeah, it can be expensive for some people.
I like the technique you said that your therapist had you envision the person in the chair. I'm gonna have to try that sometime. That sounds really helpful, actually.
It was helpful, but it was scary. I just didn't want to. I didn't want to go there with the feelings. I cried once in therapy, and it took me. I just had I was like this in all my therapy sessions. I was like tough. And then I realized, you know, if I'm going to do this, I've got to get vulnerable. And being vulnerable was not something that came easy to me. So sitting with vulnerability, you know, when they say like sit with those emotions, it's like I spent my whole life running away from those emotions or masking those emotions with other things. So to actually sit with the feelings, and then get to the stage of, once I'd let my guard down a bit and got the vulnerability, to then go and speak the words that I wanted to say. So it was a journey. It definitely wasn't like the first few weeks that we did that idea. And it still took me, when she first suggested it, probably took me about a month until I was like, okay, I'm ready. Because I wasn't used to hearing my voice in that way, you know?
Right. And that's okay. I relate to you completely about the vulnerability. It's never been easy for me either. But yeah, it's a process. And something my therapist said to me that helped is, because, you know, it feels intimidating at first, but she told me, you know, I'm in control of these sessions and I'm in control of my healing process. If there's anything that I don't want to do or talk about yet, just to remember that really helped me, because I mean, you know, as a survivor, something that struggle with is, you know, the feeling of not having control, I guess. So it was nice to get reminded of that. Like, wait, even though I'm paying you, you know, this is for me. And yeah, it was a nice little reminder.
Yeah, I think that's a great reminder to leave it on, that, you know, it is, healing is an inward journey. So there's all these exterior things out there, but really it comes from within, and you've got that control of, you know, seeing how much that you want to explore, having those days that we were talking about where you just don't actually want to heal. You just want to just, you know, just switch off. You can't be healing every day. Some days you just want to, like, you know, watch one of those shows and hide, and that's okay. Like, allow yourself to have those days and just keep going with the journey, whatever that journey looks like for you. But never, always remember that you're not alone. You know, there's always people out there. There's places online to look. We've had quite a few comments coming in. So, you know, if there are people feeling in a way that they're finding it difficult, find communities online. Try some of these coping techniques, journaling, meditations. These are just some that I do. You know, some of the things that you suggested, the bath, walking outside. So, yeah, I think we covered a lot of amazing things there. I'm really happy that we had that chat.
I am too. I feel like it's kind of like released some of my anxiety too, just talking with you. It's been comforting. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That was almost like therapy for me. So
I was for our talk, to be honest. I was like suffering with my nerves before we got on here, but it's been really lovely talking to you about everything.
Yeah, and you as well. It's been, I get that as well sometimes, you know, going on. So it's not normal. Not a lot of people would go onto a live and talk about how they feel, but it's only the more that I've been doing it. And sometimes I'll have weeks where I'm like, I don't want to do it. Oh, I'm scared. Yeah. But then as soon as I get into it, you know, when you connect with the people, yeah, it's been really, really lovely speaking with you as well. And I hope you have, you know, a lovely weekend. And yeah, we're definitely going to stay connected, and I'll be following everything that you're doing with your, you know, advocacy and talking about the mental health and wellness as well, which is super amazing that you're using your platform to do that. So thank you.
Thanks for having me on, and have a beautiful day.
Yeah, you take care. Bye to Sophia as well.
Oh, bye.
Bye.